How about this one now?
Yes.
Okay, you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
We're live. Improvisation, very good. Thanks, everybody. Thanks also for your patience. I guess we tested on production. But yeah, welcome to the meetup. Thanks for everybody online. Thanks for everybody in person. Lots of new faces in person. Online, I cannot see you, but looking forward for next time. Well, I will start with the meetup updates. And let's go forward. In case something goes in audio, I have people here to look at the chat online and the YouTube. So I will try to keep up, but I cannot guarantee. So if you could help, let's go. So first thing is we have a new logo, new old logo. Beginning of the month, I was working on creating an identity again, and I found an old logo and in a meetup. And what was funny there is that I used that logo, which was very nice. I was using the original Elixir drop in the same style as is shown here. And then the day after yesterday, at 10 at night, I figured out that it's infringing the trademark policy, so I had to redo it. So this is how we have now. I liked how it went out. It's already there. And okay, the link is breaking, but we are now on Luma too. So the idea is to experiment with Luma because Meetup as organizer is not so nice anymore. There is some things there that are leaving open, and perhaps someday it's going to be a transition, but I'm not going to do this suddenly. Yeah, and I'm going to keep informing you. But yeah, go on the calendar, and it's not going to be published in Munich channel from Luma because I'm still linking the meetup. Once we transition, we might have a chance, but it's on their own. Yeah, and please subscribe. It helps communicating. The next thing is we kind of have a GitHub organization now. The point here is that we wanted to make a presence, and we were always looking what other meetups were doing, and I thought that people at Berlin was doing very nice, so I basically copied them. Because if it's good, why not, right? I hope you're not offended. You really did a good job, and I appreciate that. So in here, you can watch our repositories. We have basically very open stuff, and I'm going to talk about what is in there. Yeah, we also have a new website. Thanks to Tidewave in Phoenix, it was very nice. So it worked very well for getting things done. It is live. It's elixir-munich.org. And the idea here is to have a hub, somebody to point to, and you find the links. You're going to find the companies, the links for submitting talks. In there, it's again, we took the example of Berlin. What they did was very nice. There is a company repository. There is a talk, but also links for Luma, Meetup, and the Slack channel. If you have suggestions, what you would like to see there, maybe a Discord server or linking to the channel, Munich channel Discord server, maybe we should create one. Yeah, please reach out. We are very open, and if you want to submit a PR, even better, right? And yes, the contribution part is very important. As I said, the two repositories there, the company is basically the catalog. I would like for each one of you, if possible, submit a PR at your company there. And like the company, the links, and which Beam languages they use. And for the planning, the repository, we are using GitHub issues for submitting a talk. It's again, we can change it along the way. I think it was a good example copied from Berlin. We can figure it out. You can also have a voice. Just let me know, and we can do it together. And it's very important that we spread the word, because Munich there's a lot of big it's a hub for technical meetups, but we don't have visibility outside our bubble. So the idea is to, if you have ideas, to go to AI Meetup and present what Elixir can do there. Or if you want to have sneaking in Python about Livebook, we are all up for that. And I can give you support to try to contact the people. Yeah. Everything I can do to help would be very nice. Yeah. And this was the thanks. Basically, this is just a report, and does everybody or anyone have a question, be it online or here? Cool. Okay, I need to screen back, and I will close my window again. I would close here. Okay, and I need to go back to this thing here. By the way, let's open the Elixir website. So it's Elixir Munich.org. It's in construction. It turns out that Gent server Akoma is not so nice to embedding. Working on that. But yeah, as I said, all the links here. Please take a look. Now I will move on to my next talk, which is running Elixir on AWS without Kubernetes. And I will steal the screen for me. And this one I want to make full screen. Cool. Again, as a reminder, I'm not seeing the chat here. If somebody has a question, please let me know. Okay. Why the hell I'm talking about AWS in Elixir Meetup? We're gonna get there. Let me go here. So who I am? I am Eduardo. I call myself a freelance software architect and principal engineer. Brand new stuff. What I have is experience in building SaaS applications, distributed systems, and modern software architectures. Basically, all-rounder architect, software engineer, and DevOps. So what I do, I combine hands-on development with strategy in cloud and also leadership, like mentoring and stuff. And I like to guide teams and executives to scalable and sustainable technology decisions. Just keeping things sane, bringing to executives more insights from the front line in dev or platform, and also the way around trying to transmit, like from executives to the frontline folks, why the things are the way they are, why we should consider different things. My motivation for this talk are two questions that I've been carrying for a while already. The first is Kubernetes has become the de facto default for running applications, but is it always necessary? One of the questions I open. And the second is, are there simpler ways to run Elixir on AWS? Disclaimer, one of the specializations I have is AWS. Therefore, there's going to be a lot of it, but I'm going to bring you back to Elixir later. The question is the overhead of Kubernetes in AWS. I want to explain what is my perspective. And, well, this is how it's running apps on AWS. Everybody knows, it's just say deploy. Very easy. And if we go on the surface, what you have to do is, probably touch EC2 somehow, have an RDS database, maybe I store some stuff in S3, have a queue externally, right? After that, maybe you're not exposed as a developer, but as a platform engineer, you're also dealing with all the stuff here. security groups, VPCs, ALBs, IAM roles, auto-scaling, secrets manager, data encryption, compliance, audit trail, security, and it is daily business. And when you're operating software in the cloud, and in AWS especially in this case, and it's a lot of work to do, right? So it is not simple to run software in AWS, but there is also, once you understand how it works, it's very nice. You can have a lot of leverage. But you also have to keep like what's under the water in consideration. What's running apps on Kubernetes? kubectl apply. Yeah, it's easy, right? No, it's just pods and YAML and deployments. And then, again, maybe as a developer, you're not exposed, but what's behind the surface is ingress controller. Do you have a GitOps platform? You have Helm. Helm is another beast. Istio, CNI plugins, alert manager, airbag policies, all this stuff. And, well, maybe as a developer, you don't care about it, but this is the reality. Somebody has to deal with in your company. Eventually, what happens is this. Now you have two icebergs to manage, right? Now I'll make a slightly in another direction and talk about removing. This is something I see as a principle, what I do, right? I ask myself the questions, what can I afford to remove? And this is very open, right? I'm talking about dependencies, I'm talking about infrastructure components, what I have to deal with, right? When I'm starting an application, I'm thinking, what is the minimal stuff I can use and not add stuff, but remove. Also, what I can afford not to have to do now. I mean, in the beginning, I don't want to have scalable systems. I want to first have it live, and then with patience, progressively, incrementally, we implement this. This is basically being defensive in what you do. And the good thing about it is, in this case, on AWS, on infrastructure and tools, is you have fewer things to upgrade, secure, to operate, and to pay for. I mean, talking about paying in time for this weird make file that somebody just added because it's what they used to, the first thing they do in the repository. Or I'm talking about going for Kubernetes for a monolith application that you maybe need a replica. Or, I don't know, you have many examples. Usually, as a software engineers, we like to add stuff. Like, in case I need that, maybe I have this option, right? I'm going to do that because, pre-commit tools, yes, really nice, very useful. But this is about what I like, and I'm pretty annoying. Who work with me with that knows that I'm very adamant and relentless to talk about these things because there is an effect. And in the case, in this context, I resume this question to the following. What if I can have tools that help me remove layers? Because, I mean, there is intrinsic complexity in running things, right? You have to, as a developer nowadays, you have to do some infrastructure as code, you have to deal with CLI tools, you have to do your application. Even in Elixir, you might need to do some custom TypeScript or JavaScript. This is normal stuff. But why not be on the lookout for looking for things that you can abstract or not have to deal with? And by the way, this is what I really like about Elixir. This is what really is attractive to me. Being so well versed in other platforms and teams, it's just I can just cover so many things with it, even many AWS services, and I feel comfortable to running it even in a bare metal and being on call for that because of that, right? So with this mentality, we need to put in perspective, in other perspectives in terms of operation. Talking about a little bit on AWS. There are native building blocks we can operate. That is really low surface exposure. That could be considered as alternatives. For example, we have serverless containers from Fargate, from ECS, which is really, imagine Google Cloud Run or Fly.io, we can do with the machines. You just care about a Docker file. once you configure it, it runs. The UX is not so nice, but it works. The developer experience, there is a challenge to get started, but once you get familiar with the API, it works. It's really reliable, and you don't have to do anything else rather than patching your container. You also have, in this case, I'm bringing here up CDK as infrastructure as code. In the case of AWS, it's a very integrated tool. I used to say, even alternatives, it compares to what, if you stay in a Microsoft environment, what is a .NET application, like really well integrated stuff, proprietary, many. And you also have all the things in AWS you end up directly or indirectly dealing with. Access management, monitoring, load balancer, secrets, encryption, auditing. And everything here do have an integrated security by default approach as an ecosystem from AWS being native, and also a lot to do with CDK in this case. This is why I choose also to present it. As an alternative to CDK, like, yes, you can use Terraform, you can use Pulumi, but Terraform doesn't really grant the integrated secure by default advantage. Like, you are on your own. You can rely on modules, but you'll find yourself writing IAM policies here and there. Pulumi is better than that, but still not so good compared to CDK in this regard, because Pulumi is a layer, you can do more stuff, you can automate more, but it doesn't have like the batteries included part. But they have their merit. And when we talk about operating, there is the shared responsibility model, which is a thing in AWS, which basically says, when you use managed services, they handle the physical networking, and you as a team or the developer focus on what you can. And in your application and dependencies, be infrastructure dependencies, how you configure it, but also business logic. And continuing that, there is this diagram from AWS which basically illustrates that, right? To the right, you have more managed stuff, less things you have to deal with. And to the left, you have less managed stuff, more things you have to deal with, and you have to take care of many things. And it does impact how you work day to day. So there are good reasons to use all the spectrum. So, but this case, what I'm talking about is going more to the right, the orange part. At least in AWS, as a team, you want to do that. We also have to look what the capabilities, the Beam and Elixir and Kubernetes overlap, right? If you look at the scaling, the scaling in terms of processes versus infrastructure level scaling with pods and clusters. There's levels of complexity advantages, which is fair in both scenarios. Fault tolerance is also a different story. You also have isolation is different. But notice that to the right, it's more infrastructure stuff, more things that you have to deal with. Which brings me to the team context, which is the main point. For small, medium teams, like people that are small companies or people doing their own stuff, usually mean end-to-end application ownership. I'm talking about, I care about the CI/CD as a developer. I aggregate different skills from knowing how to deploy, how to develop, how to operate, and I want to keep it into something that is manageable by me. In exchange, I get freedom and I get also productivity, right? In the use scenario. But end-to-end is like this. And it's something that you can say, look, I'm ready to be on call for this software. You have anything you want. You build it to run it, right? This is what I'm talking about. It shouldn't be necessary that everybody has to be an expert in all the things like platform and cloud and whatever. And my argument is that simpler in a AWS native infrastructure plus Beam runtime is equals faster delivery and less overhead. Because you're dealing with less layers. Imagine now you're building an application, and now you have to manage your cluster in between and upgrade it and all the stuff, but still have to deploy them, release. You have all the less moving parts to take care of. Now, for larger organizations, yeah, it's fine. If you have dedicated teams to use Kubernetes, yeah, to your profit, it's even less things you need to care about. And it's not that I'm telling Kubernetes is bad, but it's often really overkill when Beam and AWS native services are in the game, which is most of the time anyway. Even in big corporations that do have dedicated platform teams, people would benefit on using this setup because it's really reliable and it can be very productive. So the takeaway here is if we combine the Elixir runtime features, there's a lot of things we can rely on, plus the AWS native infra without having less layers possible. We'll reduce the need for Kubernetes and we'll make things simpler, even for dev-owned applications. It's less complexity. Cool. Now it's time of truth. I will try to do a live demo. It is, I prepared a very basic to-do app. And in this app I will walk you around the code. And now I don't see the screen, which is a problem, but I will figure out. So what I have here is a standard Phoenix application. And in this application, I do have a subfolder called infra. And this is where I instantiate a CDK application. So what I did here, let's go to the README. That's a good point, yeah. Better? Cool. Works. Should I make it lighter also? Light mode? Vampire. So this is, by the way, on GitHub. I'm going to share the link later. But basically what we have here, we have this CDK definition, which deploys the Fargate stuff, the database, automated. The things we do have, the container image, the VPC, the cluster, the settings, and the things we don't have, which it's kind of I didn't have time to finish, but we can do this later. So the idea here is that I'm going to take care of all the deployment here. And the difference is when you're used to working teams where they have a platform, or companies that have a platform team, is that here is a database connection, here is a network, here is a thing. And what I'm doing here is you as a team or a developer managing this, you're managing the whole infrastructure. You get an AWS account, have fun. And this is what is the style here. So there's two big folders I have here, and it's kind of a bit customized what standard CDK do. But the most important thing is the stack, which imagine being an instantiation of a Terraform module, for people not familiar. And in the stack, I do have an interface, which I use through configuration, like descriptive. And what I'm doing here is it's object-oriented, which is a good use case for object orientation, by the way. And then in the construction, I'm defining the resources. What it's going to do in the end is we'll compile to CloudFormation, and it's going to deploy to AWS. For example, defining the VPC. Note that I don't define subnets. It has sane defaults and secure defaults. Then I import my DNS domain and create credentials for the database. And then I create my database instance with all the information I want to do here. What it's doing, the storage type, parameterization, the secret I create and importing there. And there is a lot of other stuff here that's being, for example, I'm as a method, which once the database is created, it connects to the database, creates application user, schema, identification, everything, gives that back to me and put this in application secrets, in this case, a secret key base for Phoenix. And here I'd say, look, go for this directory and build a Docker container and publish it for me. Simply like this. And along the way, I go to the parameterization of the container where I here say, look, this is the application, load balancer Fargate service. Here's the parameterizations I want to use. The container image I just implemented, the ports I'm using. Environment variables, some things are parameterized, others are taken for other parameters. But here's interesting stuff. Database being automatically generated live without exposing secrets to CloudFormation or anything else. Note that I don't need to encrypt anything, no socks, no nothing. For example, I'm telling the secret key base has an AWS secret. I defined, put an environment variable, and it should be fine, right? I'm telling like which key of the secret in the JSON key I need to take the information from. It's basically on runtime attaching the secret as a secret environment variable. And along the way, right, I have like some health check. I have telling, look, take my database connection, allow default port from the service which I deployed in the application, giving a nice name. And I'm doing like some auto-scaling stuff. And that's it. All the stuff here along the way do basically define a CloudFormation stack. And I already have it. So I will show you how it's not relevant to look at it, but it should be in the template. Yeah. So this is the template it generates. So I can go to, for example, to the infra folder here. I'm gonna be there to the infra, and I could say, look, CDK synth. Oh, typo, of course. Yeah, so making it full screen to show you. It is building a container image. Every time I run it, will build a container image. It's on default for the demo. And this is the same template is going to be deployed. So basically, you have a transpiler here, and you can test against the code, not in the cloud. Back to the information, what I did here was to change a few things in the application to be able to do like this. I added some mixed tasks to go there and say, okay, I want to see the difference between what's in my definition locally and in the cloud, right? This is what I deployed. Is doing the compilation, connecting to my AWS account, and I deploy this at 5 o'clock, so there's no differences. Maybe the container image is going to deploy again because it's a new build. And it does take a while, but it shows like the container image here. Like I don't care where the container image is stored. In this case, it's internal stuff. But all this is flexible. It's just an example. How it looks in practice. Let me go to the code there because I wasn't prepared to then not having to share the screen. Lib. This one. For example, a diff. Simply CDK shell stuff. Boringly easy. I also did the deploy, the setup, integrate in the mix, basic stuff. Application configuration, you can see later in the repo, but I also changed the database URL to have dedicated database port, database host, database stuff, because it was what was possible to do here in terms of attaching it to the task secret without having to do any manual step and without exposing it to the template or to AWS. This is the application, did the configuration there, right? And you have some adjustments. Okay, but what if, as a developer, I want to know how it looks like in the cloud? So this is a template, and you can see the resources that is there. All the resources that for example, database instance. Implemented many things for me. I have the database there in the online. You can see here all the monitoring, how it's working. And let's look at the app. This is the application. This, by the way, it's live. You can connect there. For example, hello Munich. Cool, right? It's a very simple dummy application. The idea is just to demonstrate what it looks like. And if I go here to the, for example, ECS, it's my cluster, we deployed. And in the cluster there, I see the service. And it's pretty similar to what Kubernetes would do, but very simplified. And I can go to logs here and say, yeah, let's show me the logs of the application. Health checks, all the stuff here. Yeah. So the challenge is to get the stack done. This thing here, you're basically pushing the learning curve, or how's the word? You are pushing the effort or making it work to the forefront. So you cannot deploy if everything doesn't work. But after this is there, you have guarantees. For example, if you deploy an application inside one stack and something goes wrong, for example, deploy a new version and you need to roll back, you have a guarantee that it's gonna return to the previous state. That was good, except for the date, of course, but the infrastructure state. And well, I didn't put here, but you can automate however you need, right? And you get exposure to AWS services, but you also have control to it. What else? I think this would be the question of the live demo. I would jump for any questions. Okay, Felix.
Do you have any experiences or estimations how this compares to a fully managed solution like File.io, where it's like with a platform, it's pretty much specific cost for what you get, because AWS usually is very intransparent for most people know what they do here for.
Yeah. Although there are tools you can put in your infrastructure as code that you have a prediction of how it costs. Okay. The question is, how does it compare to tools like Fly.io? And especially the case was because of the cost estimation, right? So in terms of running, it's going to be more expensive on AWS. The container I'm using, it costs me 30 euros a month, like half a gigabyte. And you have the database also being costed. However, there is no operation. So it's a bill, but you have operation. No operation cost, no the overhead. In Fly.io, it's much better and cheaper in terms of usability. However, you don't have access to the insights. And it's also a fairly defendable option. Usually you want to do an AWS if you already are there, right? Or you have to have like control to underlying capabilities, or you need resilience, you need more flexibility, right? A good example recently, it was not Elixir, but Terra team. They have been on Fly. They needed more access, need more troubleshooting capabilities. They came back to AWS in the same stack usually, right? So usually you're already on AWS, or you already know about AWS, or there is a mandate from top down. And if you have compliance requirements, you probably are on AWS or any other cloud provider.
What kind of troubleshooting, because you also have observability from Fly.io?
Sure, I will just repeat your question. So the question is, what kind of observability on visibility, right? The comparison is that what Fly.io gives you access to is very high level. So they give you access to a ready-made Grafana dashboard. They give you access to the view of Sentry, perhaps, right, which may suffice. But what is if there is an outage?
But those are like optional. It's by default, but you can also have access to the system events that comes out from the system and push it to wherever you want. So you still
Yeah.
visibility you set up on the AWS?
Yeah. What I can say is operationally, Fly.io, it's not as mature as AWS. My experience has not been negative in Fly.io. It's just that it's a question of depth. In AWS, you have really can touch every lever that's available there. You can build many things like a Lego piece. Where you can be exposed to many more internals and different components, which Fly.io is exactly the business case. It's about just getting rid of that and giving you easy to use. This visibility they do, it doesn't mean that they don't give. It's just in AWS, you can go much more deeper and implement much more deeper solutions with different integrations. So it's an apples to orange comparison, but it's a valid one.
But for AWS, are we talking like EC2, Hernacki, or Fargate?
You can depending on the managed service level you have. So I can configure like in a parameter there to say, give me all the insights you can give me for the container, all the stuff that happens, and I need audit logs for what happens on my network, like flow logs, traffic flows. I need to connect to and across another client's infrastructure, or I have a connection to my data center.
But Fly.io gives you that you can have access to the events, the any tenants events. So if you want those like low level, you can plug it in and push them to wherever you want to collect all your data. And it also gives you like those connections to like other data. I think there's some kind of AWS connectors or that you can also connect to. So I was just trying to understand if you're talking about like comparing it with AWS parameters or EC2.
No, it's more on the depth that you can do things on your own. Yeah.
But with Fly.io, I guess these events go to the internet.
No, they are all within their own system. So you don't they have different levels. So by default they give you like a free Grafana dashboard, so you don't have to set it up. But if you don't like that, you can custom ship your own tool that taps into their own low level systems to collect those data.
You need your system to connect to a data center in another place. Can you have a network that which is private?
Yeah, over the years they ship those products where you can use to connect to private data centers and we have them within like those VPC kind of system. And also within their network you can also have your own VPC where this particular set of apps only talk to each other and not exposed to other apps in your organization.
Oh, that's cool. It's good to know that they work so far. Cool.
Yeah, over the years they ship more customization.
Also, for example, types of databases in AWS. You have document DB, you have DynamoDB, you have Postgres or MySQL, and then you have fancy databases.
Fly is not great with data.
And there is one thing also that is very procurement on AWS. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they have like Amazon, and I say like they do have Amazon basic versions of managed services like DocumentDB for MongoDB as alternative to MongoDB Atlas, or Amazon basic version of Confluent Cloud. But the advantage is it's one build. In the GDPR terms, it's only one. I forgot the term. Hersteller, Lieferanten. One vendor, one provider that you're dealing with, and it's cheaper for me to go through AWS and build the stuff, even if Fly.io might have a perfect fit for what I want to do, or even be cheaper, because the procurement part is not an issue. Yeah. And of course, we're dealing like if you're a small shop, you probably shouldn't use AWS unless you really know AWS.
Yeah, I think it depends on like the scale of what you want to do. I think Fly also gives it to everybody. I don't think it's as expensive as AWS because they also build it around their machine architecture. So there are some I think it's still evolving and not as great as like GCP, EKS, and even
Yeah, this is now everybody has to run after these things. Yeah. Cool. Any other question? Any question online? Julian?
You also support clustering for the utility when you run multiple services that you can talk to other things.
I didn't build it there, but there is something that you could use like the Postgres part for that, or at least to discovery. But what you needed to do is go to the definition and say container also expose a PMD port and set the secret for environment variable. Basically, what you would do with Kubernetes, but the service discovery part would be something like a Kubernetes namespace, but managed by AWS. Great. So the question was about EPMD and clustering.
So with Fargate, you can deploy the containers in the same network.
Yes. Another question? Yeah.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. So everything you talked about really well. It's now something one pretty much on almost identical stuff that we tried. For the reasons you enumerated, you have a tough team, you don't have really a dedicated DevOps engineer. So we essentially manage this all the structure ourselves. It's been working pretty well for us. With the because that we're not running in the cycle. So the problems we encounter, or what in my opinion is simple on Kubernetes, was the autoscaling. The setting up the scaling groups in ECS, yeah, it's possible, of course it works, but it's not as straightforward as in Kubernetes, but might be also interesting. And the service discovery. So one of the Kubernetes comes with everything built in, and it's familiar. And in ECS, we're going to bring the additional service and that could bring additional complexity.
Yeah.
And just wanted to see what is your experience with that?
So I will try to tell again what you said, and you correct me if that's correct. So your question was about comparing to Kubernetes regarding the features of service discovery, and what was the other?
Autoscaling.
And autoscaling. What do I find using this approach here, and if it makes it harder or how? Is that the question?
Yeah, essentially, I found it more, let's say, troublesome and less flexible in ECS compared to Kubernetes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just want to see if you have the same opinion, or maybe you're using some substitutes.
No. So when you said that it is feels more complex and more difficult and more rigid, yeah. I see this as a feature, although I share the moments of annoyance, right? To make this thing work first, you have so many interdependencies that it's easy to take a whole day to make it work, right? Basically, we're talking in this case. What I built here is, if anything goes wrong, it reverts back to zero, and you have to wait 20 minutes to wait for the database to be deleted and to build again. But this is the way I build it, just for the demo, right? I would deal with that. But yeah, every time you feel that you're adding a new system like service discovery or, I don't know, auto-scaling, there is this pain of having to figure out how it works there, right? What I like that this is constrained, because being constrained also means that you can do less things wrong, and you also free a lot of space. At least in CDK, I can rely a lot on the documentation and type system. It helps a lot, like the code documentation. And even in AI tools, it's like I don't write tests anymore. I say, hey, look, write this test for me to look at this CloudFormation template for whatever reason? Or how could look like that? How could, in my case, how could I do adding these services? So yeah, they're a pain. This is what they're talking about, bringing the pain up front, having to learn. You know, the way around, learning Kubernetes also wasn't easy. It's just that it becomes a standard nowadays. But once you get through the pains of operating it, you just have to choose, like, do I want to deal with this cluster and have to update Prometheus and patch it and do the stuff, or I rather prefer the pain and upfront pain and making my CDK work and operate in this level. In other terms, is do you parse or you validate? Kubernetes would be the validate part, right? Works very well. You can go a long way, like you can bring the data in and you deal inside the system, or you can parse, like type it functional language. That is a no gate. You shall not pass if you're not correct. And CDK is more the latter.
Have you tried to compare this solution to Kubernetes deployed on Fargate on AWS?
Okay.
That I think might be a more fair comparison than.
Could be, yes. The question was, what about the EKS, the Kubernetes variant of Fargate? We could do that. You are paying for the control plane. You have to update that every 6 months. I think there is a new version, so you have to upgrade that. You have to still manage your deployments. Whereas in the CloudFormation, it rarely changes. Other than that, there is no big difference, other than that you have Kubernetes runtime. And usually I see people using EKS Fargate, so the Kubernetes version, when they already have clusters or some other workload, or they have a Helm chart that works there because they don't use like local bindings to storage or whatever. So yeah, it's pretty fair to consider the other option too, is that I personally think that if I don't have to deal with Kubernetes, for as long as I don't have to deal with it, it's a better. And this is a pain, like take 1 day of work to make it work. But I know that once it works, it's pretty reliable. But I don't mean it's easier.
I mean, based on our experience, it's been working pretty well actually.
Cool.
So, but also, like going back to the previous discussion, because now we had already experienced with AWS, so that was just to make it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I didn't put a website on AWS. I did in 5 minutes in fly.io. I don't need for. I mean, I did a Phoenix application just because it's Elixir. Otherwise, I could put something static file generate, but so everything is valid, yeah, at this point. Any other question?
How do you do like maybe ceremony and deployment for this CDK projects start with your Elixir?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't get the beginning.
Like the zero downtime deployment, or you want to do like a blue green deployment with the
Okay.
Fargate?
This is ECS service capability specific. So when you have a deployment, you can define a strategy you want. Usually what it does by default is to say, I'm going to put a new container waited to put up. Then I will replace like a blue-green style. Once it's working, the health check is passing, whatever, then I remove the old ones. There is canary methodologies. There is other ways to dealing with. You can integrate also deployment to say, CDK, you don't deploy. I want to have a GitHub action to go there. But you have to figure out how to do this in CDK. Because it's not something explicit. It's a lot of context-rich integration, and you have to do a lot of documentation, read a lot of documentation in terms of the code in your IDE.
I'm trying to understand how, like I've seen arguments in some forums on like maybe you don't need Kubernetes with like with the beam because it has this kind of hot reloading kind of feature.
You could use that, yeah. You could use hot reloading instead.
Okay.
But I mean, the unit of deployment is a container image. You could do hot reloading, but it adds some complexity too. There are reasons for that, but if you can make your deployable a container image, which is distributable enough, that will solve the problem. Now, if would say, no, I'm going to run Elixir in bare metal, I would consider that. Hot reloading, yes. Because then the server becomes a pet, not a kettle anymore.
Because I was speaking to some folks who also does Elixir, and they also simplify the pattern. I think the conversation was around how it's complex to do, like decide on the perfect deployment, since now the workload has moved to containers rather than the always on kind of server.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is. It's nice that we have lots of approaches for that, right? In terms of differences. My thing is start with a good enough, and what's simple enough, because then you can always make it harder or complex later. Cool. Another question. Okay, let me see from the chat if somebody has a question online. Yes. Somebody told here 6 minutes ago.
We have the pain of learning it for Kubernetes as well.
You just say it. Yeah, pretty much. Sesam yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, pretty much. It's everything is trade-off. I optimize for dealing with less stuff as possible. And this is why I like Elixir so much. What I would do different, just to finish. I would, instead of using a HTTP-wise load balancer, I would use a network one and have Elixir to emit its own Let's Encrypt certificate. So I have end-to-end TLS and many other stuff. I mean, and if you need help to do that, hire me. Thank you very much. This is the link for the website. Please go there, share, open issues. If you need to have a call to just understand what it is, happy to do so. This is a link and QR code to my website if you want to know more about me. And well, notice how we avoided the Kubernetes iceberg. This is my closing. Thank you very much. Now we would have a lightning talk. Do you want to send your presentation to me? No. You don't have a presentation. You want to sit here?
No, I can. I would like to. I'm not sure if we can. I can. No, I have a live application I would like to show. So
okay. Open on my computer. Yeah.
Or you can just check it out from GitHub.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Send me the link. I will open it for you. I will open the terminal. 1 second. I mean, I guess you know, yeah. Didn't receive yet.
Maybe I was not online.
Yeah, could be. Do you also want me to? Do you want me to open an IDE or just a browser?
Yeah, IDE.
Okay. I will close this then.
And browser, both side by side.
We can do that. Okay, got the link. I will clone it and then I will clone by HTTPS first.
I can already start speaking if people are otherwise leaving.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, so I wanted to just give a 5-minute presentation of my pet project, which is a not so static site builder, which is also running in Phoenix Live View. So around 1 year ago, I wanted to host a blog, and I didn't want to use any of the existing static site builders because they were not built in Elixir and they were kind of boring. So what I did was I created my own, and because I used Phoenix Live View, I could create some pretty cool features, which I will show you now. So it's all basically running in a Live View application.
It's there. Sorry about it.
Yeah, I will try to.
No. Oh yeah, you would share the screen to the stream, right? Let me do that. Yep. Thanks for it.
So, yeah, anyone probably know Hugo or Jekyll, which take Markdown as an input and generate a HTML website. Yeah, that's amazing. I can see what I'm doing.
That also
neat.
works, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's weird.
Yeah.
I suggest you stand up here and work from there.
Yeah, that's better. Oops. Can I get the editor, which is running?
You have to look at that.
Can I have it side by side? Yes, perfect. So.
You have to look at that.
Almost. It's on TVs. Everything's delayed. There we go. Okay, so you're on the.
You can right click in the empty space. You can use the port in the browser.
No, let's go just to.
It's always like this.
Is it running? No, it's not running it. Let's see.
You want to open the terminal?
No, I'm just running the project that we're showing.
Okay.
I can also bring. Sorry, I just have to pull the dependencies and on the server. So what the server is doing, it's basically looking at your at the folder with your Markdown files, and it's creating a file watcher. And whenever you change your files, it will automatically push the updates to your browser. So you will get a live rendering of all the changes you're doing. So you can edit the sites that you're building and look at them in the browser without having to refresh anything. So you don't need a deploy loop. You can just open the browser next to your editor and then write away. And the initial idea was that we have a very simple way of creating pages. So it does not do any fancy layouting or styling. It just takes basic Markdown. You have a YAML header, so I can show the pages. So we have a home page. On top, you just have a few lines of YAML. You can add a banner. You can give it a title. You can also tag your pages, which is one of the basic features you have in those static site builders. And now this is the page. I would make it a bit bigger so it's responsive. So it will also work on mobile phones with a nice menu. And yeah, you can see here the tag is highlighted. So now when I want to add another tag, something like US layout, awesome. Meetup, and I save this. Wait, it's not working. That's the beauty of live presentations. Let's see if the.
It's not supposed to work.
Let me see if the console is saying. Are there any errors? No. Oh wait, let's. No.
Watch now, command not found.
Yeah, that should not be the problem, because that's just the basic error you always get since Phoenix. Just running a mixed setup again. There might have been some error with the JavaScript. It's looking better now. But it's still. There's the meetup. Yeah, but because I did a refresh. So let's see if it works now. So where's my what's going on here? I come to this, and let's save that. Voila, now it works. Munich, so I can just save the file, and it would automatically push here to the browser. Yeah, what it's also doing, it's generating anchors for all your titles. I've embedded highlight.js to do source code coloring if you want to embed examples on your page. And there are a few more nice features like RSS generation for all of your pages. And what I'm currently still working on is a live tracker, so it will record all of the page visits. So you can see how many people actually visited your page and how long. So I'm also using the presence feature, so nothing is happening in the front end there. It's basically all back end side. And I'm also working on a presentation feature here. So I'm basically taking the approach of reveal.js, just running server side, and this would allow us to do to use the same features. Where is it? There's my deck. Just as a presentation. So you just write your presentation in Markdown, and then you have your slides here. You can click through the slides. There's something unhappy, and then you can also do live editing here. And when you save the file, it would automatically change what is rendered in your browser. If you like this, you can find it on GitHub. I would also be happy to accept pull requests if you want to build new features. I don't know, I should have a link to GitHub somewhere in here. Where is it?
You can live code it in.
You can live code it in, yeah. It's great.
And if it was deployed, people could scan the quick QR code and like follow the presentation.
So this is generating the QR code of the page that we are currently on. So it's not useful when you're running it localhost, unfortunately. But when you host that site, it would also reflect the page you're on, so you can actually link to the exact page that you're currently showing in the presentation. But I would just I don't know. I would just send you the or maybe you can show it, the GitHub link.
Yes, let me check out.
So I can do the free.
Okay.
Let me open it. There it is. Alchemy Pub. I will. So this is the link. Junkie. Alchemy Pub.
Just search for Alchemy Pub. Yeah. Any questions?
Of course, you have this report somewhere, but then we always have to connect to it to edify. Maybe this would be the first feature request to have like input file editor.
I thought about this. Yes, I didn't want to go down that route because building a file editor or a Markdown editor in the browser is quite a big deal. So what I'm doing is I have a GitHub So whenever I push a change to my repository, it will just automatically pull that into my running server, and it will automatically refresh with the new content.
Is the goal like a static site or not so static?
It's not so static, so it requires live view to run. Yeah, compared to a static site generator, you need a full-blown Phoenix deployment to run it. But you can just host it on fly.io, for example. That would be the simplest way, and this is probably also free if you are below the $5 threshold. So,
Yeah.
Like why the heavy dependency in Phoenix like you?
Because you can actually do cool things with it, and it gives you the possibility to build like on top of the this live refresh. So everything that we are changing on the site will go out to all the page visitors right away. So you can open for example, with the presentation, everyone who's sitting in the audience can just open the link, and they will have the page in there. And when you make a change or when you switch the page, this will transfer to all the people who are visiting that page. So you can actually host your slides or your page on the website. So you don't need any other platform anymore.
I was thinking then, like, just comparing with something like Astro, that it's fine with this live refresh with the live view, and then maybe when you want to deploy, you just compile to it, and then you just push it wherever you like maybe pick up the GitHub pages.
Yeah, but then you need a third-party solution to do the tracking for you, and you would rely on some JavaScript or some front-end solution to collect the statistics, for example.
The statistics is important for you.
It was one of the things that I wanted to know, how many people visit the page, right? Right now, it's always a hassle with cookie warnings. I wanted to have something which is basically free of any tracking, like front-end tracking solutions.
It's nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm still working on it, so there will still be added more features from time to time.
When you're going to publish it on the Hex?
That is perfect.
Yeah, when it's done. So the point is not a library, right? It's an application. So it's not meant to be pulled into an existing Phoenix application, because it's there's all the folder structure and everything is set up. So in theory you could pull it in, but then you have to manually do the setup for your new supervisor and make sure that everything is what should be.
I see. Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Good. Thank you also for being so spontaneous for the bat. Cool. Yeah, I think thank you for online people. Thank you for in-present people. We are going to close now the stream. Thanks again for participation. And have a nice evening. You're online. We're going to stay here and continue with networking. Thank you very much. Bye.